If you're expecting a baby or have ever been around someone who is, you know the feeling. The excitement is through the roof, and there is one question that absolutely everyone asks right from the get-go. For literally centuries, people have come up with all kinds of ways to guess the answer. So today, let's have some fun and see if there's any real truth behind those classic old wives' tales. So, is it a boy or a girl? It's the big one. For generations, families have passed down these little traditions, these supposed secrets that can tell you the answer way before any doctor can. But are any of them legit? Are they just fun stories? Well, we're about to find out. All right, let's kick off our little investigation with our very first clue. It's something you see on the baby bump every single day, but probably don't give a second thought to: the belly button.
I'm sure you've heard this one, right? The age-old innie versus outie debate. The story goes that if your belly button stays tucked in, you're having a girl. But if it pops out like a little turkey timer, well, get the blue decorations ready, because it's a boy.
Okay, so let's get straight to it. The truth is, whether your belly button is an innie or an outie has absolutely nothing, and I mean nothing, to do with the baby you're carrying. It was actually decided the second you were born. It all just depends on how your umbilical cord was clamped and how it healed. So your belly button's destiny was sealed a long, long time ago. Okay, you might be thinking, but why does it suddenly pop out when I'm pregnant? Is that a sign? Nope. Sorry, it's just good old-fashioned physics. You know, as the baby gets bigger, there's more fluid, more everything. The pressure inside your abdomen just builds and builds. And sometimes that pressure is enough to push your belly button out. It's all about pressure, not prediction.
All right, so clue number one, the belly button is officially busted. But what about the actual shape of the baby bump? Let's move on to our second clue.
Now, this one is probably one of the most famous tales out there. It feels like everyone from your grandma to that nice lady at the grocery store has an opinion on this. They say if you're carrying high, like a perfect little basketball, it's a girl. But if you're carrying low and kind of more out in front, it's gotta be a boy. Whoa, okay, now look at this number, 80 to 85%. What could that possibly be about? Is that how accurate this myth is? Well, not quite. So this is where things get really interesting. Medical professionals have actually noticed that, yeah, in the majority of pregnancies with boys, the belly does tend to appear lower, especially in the last few months. But here's the key. It's an observation, not a hard and fast rule. So what's really happening? It all comes down to the baby's position. See, toward the end of the pregnancy, a baby boy's head will often drop down into the pelvis a little bit earlier to get into position for birth. And that's what makes the whole belly look like it's sitting lower. So the old wives weren't wrong about what they were seeing, they just didn't know why they were seeing it. Okay, so we've got one myth totally busted and another one that actually has a surprising little kernel of truth to it. Now it's time for our final and honestly most interesting clue. A mysterious line that might just hold a real secret. So during pregnancy, a lot of women notice this dark line that runs right down the middle of their belly. It's called the linea nigra, which is just Latin for black line. It's totally normal, totally harmless, and it's just a result of pregnancy hormones causing a bit more skin pigmentation. But of course, there's a story that goes along with it. The classic belief goes like this. If the line stops at your belly button, it's a girl. If that line keeps going all the way up your tummy, it's a boy. But when science took a look at this one, they found absolutely zero evidence that the length of the line has anything to do with the baby's gender. And just when you think, okay, another myth busted, hold on because there's a twist. The real secret of the linea nigra apparently isn't about how long it is, but how dark it is. And this, my friends, is where it gets really, really cool. So check this out. 75 to 80%. This number points to another one of those surprising patterns, just like we saw with the shape of the belly. This is wild. Both studies and observations from doctors have found that in a pretty significant number of cases, we're talking up to 80%, a really dark, prominent linea nigra is linked to having a baby boy. On the flip side, a lighter, fainter line is more often seen with girls. So what on earth is going on? The answer, again, is hormones. It's a fascinating look at the incredible way Allah has designed our bodies. The specific hormones that are more present when you're carrying a boy can sometimes trigger your body to produce more melanin. That's the natural pigment that gives your skin its color. This can make the linea nigra darker, and sometimes even other areas of your skin too. It's pretty amazing, right? So, while some of these old stories have a surprising little thread of science woven into them, they're obviously not guarantees. Not even close. If you want a real, 100% certain, bet the house on it answer, we have to leave the guessing games behind and turn to modern medicine.
The most common way to find out, of course, is the good old ultrasound, and its accuracy gets way better over time. A really skilled technician might be able to make a guess around 11 or 12 weeks. By 13 weeks, it's already 97% accurate. But the sweet spot, the best time for that big gender reveal, is between 18 and 22 weeks. By then, everything is usually developed enough to see clearly.
But even then, getting a clear shot isn't always a sure thing. The final result depends on a few different things. First, the baby has to be in a cooperative mood and a good position. Then, the skill of the technician matters a lot, as does the quality of the ultrasound machine. Even the mother's own body composition can sometimes make the image a little harder to read. Now, for anyone who just absolutely cannot wait and wants the highest accuracy possible, there's something called the NIPT test. It's a super simple, non-invasive blood test that's taken from the mother, and you can do it as early as 10 weeks into the pregnancy. It analyzes tiny fragments of the baby's DNA that are floating around in the mother's blood, and besides checking for other important health information, it can tell you the gender with almost perfect certainty.
Okay, so after digging into the old tales and looking at the hard science, what's the bottom line? Let's break down what we've really learned here.
So, the belly button thing? It's just a fun myth. The shape of the belly has a pretty cool correlation with the baby's position before birth, but it's definitely not a rule. And that mysterious dark line? The linea nigra's darkness actually has a surprising hormonal link, but again, it's not a guarantee. When you really want to know for sure, science, with tools like the ultrasound and NIPT test, is the only way to go. And that really brings us to our last big thought. In a world where a simple blood test can give us a definite answer at just 10 weeks, why do we still tell these stories? Why do we still have so much fun guessing based on the shape of a belly or a line on the skin? Maybe it's because that 9-month journey is about more than just finding out the answer. It's about the connection, the shared stories, the community, and just the pure joy of wondering and waiting together. What do you think?